Hello, Megan. You met any Canadians before?
Never.
Well, it's about time, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I figured there needs to be a real man in this shot, and it's gonna be me.
Ryan Jenkins is an animal.
God, I love my life. And I love my wife. Love you, babe. Luckiest guy in the world.
Jenkins is accused of murdering the 28-year-old Las Vegas bikini model he married only in March. Her body was found Saturday, stuffed into a suitcase.
The fingers and teeth were removed.
VH1 let a murderer join their reality television shows. They claimed the proper background checks were complete, but there was a rude awakening when one of their talent was wanted for murder. It's even scarier when you realize how close this killer was to winning a reality show. And that reality show was all about finding love. So we're going to be talking about the show Megan Wants a Millionaire. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about one of the most disturbing stories in reality television. I think when someone goes on a reality TV show, they anticipate the network protecting them, or at least doing a background check, because in this dating show, there was a murderer who was cast. Megan Hauserman is a former Playboy model who was featured on the Rock of Love show with Bret Michaels. Back in the day, I used to be obsessed with VH1 reality TV shows. There was a I Like Money, there was the New York show, Flava Flav, Rock of Love, and Megan Hauserman made the most of her time at VH1. She was featured on the show Rock of Love, but also on I Love Money and Rock of Love Charm School. The network loved her so much, she ended up with her own dating show, which was titled Megan Wants a Millionaire. So essentially, VH1 had this idea of putting one of their big-time reality stars on her own show in this home with a bunch of guys who claimed to be millionaires. Casting producers did the most, trying to get a bunch of guys for Megan. They actually placed ads on radio stations and through casting parties at nightclubs. They ended up finding a 32-year-old real estate developer named Ryan Jenkins who was located in Las Vegas. One of the casting directors was quoted saying that Ryan had one of the best personalities on this planet. Keep in mind that we're talking about a murderer. The producer said he was intriguing. He knew it. He wasn't the best looking guy in the world, but he had this charisma. Nowadays, you'd hope that casting for reality TV is a little bit different. They're not, putting ads on the radio or finding these guys in the nightclubs.
Hello, Megan.
Look, we're matching already.
We are matching. You met any Canadians before?
Never.
Well, it's about time, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Can I let you in on a little secret?
Please do. Ryan whispers in my ear, you're gonna love Canadian bacon.
Save me a spot for dinner, okay?
Not him telling her a secret that she's going to like Canadian bacon. But I actually remember watching this show live, and then eventually it just stopped going live, which we will talk about why. Now, Ryan described himself as a little bit of a Prince Charming, a little bit of a bad boy. And Megan actually liked him from day one. Now, Megan did see some red flags when it came to Ryan's millionaire status, because he wore a fake Rolex and he only brought one pair of pants for a 5-week shoot. But she said he was so sweet. Megan actually later admitted that he came closer to winning than anyone else. Megan said, I got his phone number and I called him when we weren't filming. We would talk on the phone at nighttime. We were having a relationship outside of filming and nobody knew about it. And I basically told him, I'm going to pick you. But when Megan let producers know which millionaire she wanted, in the end, they had other ideas. They actually say that Ryan wasn't likable in his interviews and he was just putting on a show for her. So acting like this sweet guy when he's doing his confessionals, he's very different. Though they never explicitly told Megan not to choose him, producers made it clear that viewers would not want Ryan to win and encouraged her to rethink her options. So she did. She also was open to Ryan about this and told him their plan, and he wasn't happy about it. There were only 3 days left of filming, so she planned to call him once everything wrapped up. And she said that she would just explain to him, it's all television, it's fake anyways, but I really like you.
I have to go with Ryan. These guys are about evenly matched physically. Now it's just about who wants me more.
I'm good at dates and beautiful girls.
Previous loser Ryan saw an opportunity to redeem himself.
I figured there needs to be a real man in this shot, and it's gonna be me. I want this date. I figure, hey, if there's any time for a Baywatch dive, it's now.
Woo! Oh my God! Ryan obviously wants to go on another date with me. My hero.
That was so brave of you, but you did still lose twice. So you stay on the loser's bench.
Losing 2 times in one day really blows, but hey, I think my tux actually look better wet.
Now, eventually, Megan caught up to Ryan and they reconnected, but he had a new story. Megan said, he called me and said, I have to tell you something. I was so upset when I left the show. I went to Vegas and I met a girl. She's my soulmate and we got married. It seems like Ryan was desperate to marry anyone. He wanted a trophy wife and some legalities when it comes down to it. I don't know if that's to help him in his case, but he found another blonde in Vegas and he got married very quickly. Now, Jasmine is the woman who he ended up marrying. She's the one in Las Vegas who he believed was his soulmate. But of course, Jasmine was unaware of Ryan's dark side. He was eventually charged with a misdemeanor battery after he was accused of hitting Jasmine in the arm. Supposedly, Jasmine wanted to get out of this relationship, but she didn't know how to tell Ryan she was done, and it got really toxic. According to reports, Jasmine and Ryan called it quits in May. He went to Mexico to film a reality TV show while trying to salvage the marriage. Okay, so looks like he had already been with her prior. It is believed that they briefly reconciled in June and then got together again in August. Supposedly, he would write poems and stories to Jasmine, and he had this huge spiritual awakening that she was the one for him. Now, I'm sure Jasmine was living it up whenever he was away and filming this show, because their relationship didn't really have a strong basis to begin with. But we do have some content from back in the MySpace days of Jasmine and Ryan together.
God, I love my life. And I love my wife. Love you, babe. Luckiest guy in the world. Hey, baby. Look at this place. This is our life. I like it, yeah. That's my wifey, baby. I love my life.
I'm sure Megan was hurt that Ryan wanted to go and be with his soulmate, but it probably was a big relief when he found out what happened to Jasmine. About 5 months later, on August 19th, Megan was staying at a friend's apartment in LA when the news broke. Quote, I was in the shower and my friend came running to the bathroom screaming that Ryan was on TV. They showed his face and said that he was a suspect and that they found Jasmine's body. I thought it was an accident. My first thought was that he did not do it on purpose. But Jasmine's body was found strangled, mutilated, and stuffed in a suitcase and then tossed in a dumpster. Ryan then went on the run. TMZ uncovered his previous criminal record, which it turns out he was arrested in 2005 for assaulting a girlfriend. VH1 claims they did do a background check, but it did not turn up, so not a good idea.
A former boyfriend of the murdered model spoke briefly for her family.
Ryan Jenkins is an animal. What he has done to Jasmine is unspeakable.
Investigators say Ryan Jenkins may have crossed into Canada from tiny Point Roberts, Washington, after a man matching his description abandoned a ski boat at a local marina.
It is now our belief that he has now crossed the border on foot.
Jenkins is accused of murdering the 28-year-old Las Vegas bikini model he married only in March. Her body was found Saturday, stuffed into a suitcase just hours after she was last seen with Jenkins.
The fingers and teeth were removed.
Her family broke down hearing the description.
Now, that is an incredibly violent attack and such a sad way for Jasmine to go, sending some peace to her soul and some peace to her family, because that is horrific. Now, Ryan wasn't ever violent on the set of Megan Wants a Millionaire or I Love Money 3, so I guess he's been on 2 shows. The fact that he murdered Jasmine so soon after filming these 2 reality shows made everyone question if these contestants were safe, because he was in this home and clearly not stable. Now, we don't know what led up to Jasmine's death or what happened to her body. I mean, we know to a degree, but not exactly what he did. When the model's corpse was discovered, her fingers and teeth were missing. They were actually able to identify Jasmine after tracking down the serial number on her breast implants.
There was an individual who was out looking for cans early in the morning.
And he came across this suitcase in a dumpster, and he believed there was a child in the suitcase.
And I realized immediately it was not a small child. It was a small female.
The adult female was nude, but you couldn't really see her face because the way the body was positioned inside the suitcase.
I started looking at all the fingers. I realized they were all missing. Her teeth are going to be missing too. Who would have done that? She went to the Orange County Coroner's office for an autopsy. We need to start trying to identify this female who can't do prints, And her face was too badly beaten to really try to make a positive identification in any way. But we had a sketch artist come in.
And we put the sketch in the media to see if anybody could recognize her.
A woman named Erica Worth, a private investigator, was at home in Vancouver, Washington when her phone rang at 11 p.m. She said, I got a call from my PI surveillance partner. He's like, don't you do the background checks for that show? I turn on the news and I see footage of Ryan Jenkins and I see that there's a manhunt for him. And I said, oh my God. It turns out that Erica's company had been performing background checks for VH1 for some time, and this was a major slip up. She says in the years that we worked with them, we did 500,000 background checks and we never had a single incident ever. Viacom is the entity that owns VH1, and of course they were freaking out and trying to contact Erica and asking her, how did this man get through our system? At this point, it looked like Ryan had escaped to Canada and all hell was breaking loose. Within days, the media backlash began. All the media outlets were asking, how did this murderer get on a reality television show? And imagine if Megan had picked him, then she would have been stuck with him and it could have been her. The aftermath of this situation was catastrophic. There were lawsuits, breach of contracts, and the industry really didn't know how to move forward with this shakeup because now any one of their contestants could be problematic.
He strangled her to death in the hotel room. And then as an afterthought, he's thinking, how do I keep her from being found? If they find her, I don't want them to identify her. I believe he took her into the bathtub shower area and cut off her fingers. I believe he flushed them down the toilet, and teeth fragments were still inside of her mouth and inside the bag. After killing her, cutting off her fingers, breaking out teeth, he put her in her suitcase, zips it closed, takes it out the back of the room onto the patio area, and then into the vehicle. We can deduct this because none of the luggage came out the front. Next time we see Ryan is at 6:24 a.m. and he's leaving the room with what looks like his clothing in his arms, stacked up.
I think you guys could tell by this video that Ryan is clearly a coward. He's got some major issues, and he's the type of person where he has issues, but he tries to play them off that he doesn't, and he tries to be like charming, and I cannot stand men like him. He actually ended up taking his own life because he was on the run and didn't know how to handle it and did not want to face the consequences like a man. To give you guys a brief on the timeline, so Ryan Jenkins' wife Jasmine was discovered murdered on August 15th. On August 19th, Ryan was charged and a manhunt was announced. Now on August 23rd, Ryan was discovered taking his own life. And then on August 24th, a day after, Megan Wants a Millionaire and I Love Money 3 were canceled.
I'm sorry to have to talk to you under these situations. What did it mean to you when you found out this news about Ryan Jenkins?
It was a great relief that we weren't going to spend months and months of our life trying to find this person and bringing him to justice. I mean, we wanted justice for Jasmine. I mean, it's a relief to know that this man is not out there with the possibility of causing harm to other people, you know. I mean, that was a dangerous person, and now we don't have to worry about him. But I feel like, he was a coward and he took the easy way out. He didn't want to face the consequences of his actions, and that's how he dealt with it.
Now, after Ryan's body was found, there was some closure to this, but people were looking at Megan and asking her how she felt about it all. Megan vividly recalls the moment she spoke to Ryan. They were in person, she says. It was very upsetting because he wasn't the same person anymore. I felt like I needed to get away from him immediately and never see him again. Probably because he didn't get what he wanted by winning the show, so he wasn't going to put on that charm anymore. She says, I felt unsafe. I felt he was unstable and that it was an unsafe environment to be with him. He was very paranoid. He thought people had convinced me to tell him things. He was very delusional.
I had no idea that he was previously arrested for domestic violence. The show did some type of background checks, but the background check company missed it. From what I heard, he had his previous arrest expunged in Canada.
Apparently in Las Vegas, about a month after they got married, he saw her talking with someone, got jealous, pushed her into the pool.
And he wound up spending a night in jail for that.
And that case was still pending. It hadn't gone to court yet when her homicide happened. 4 months later,
That speaks to the flaws in our justice system, because there are so many cases of domestic violence that end up like this because there's not enough protection for survivors. Megan said, I told him I'd be gone for a while because I didn't want to see him anymore and I just wanted him to leave me alone. So I lied and said I was leaving California and going back to Florida, which may have been a lie that saved her life. She said I would describe our connection as very natural. I think we both were attracted to each other and had a lot in common. I thought that maybe it was going to go somewhere. We had been talking to each other for about a month during filming. We would talk every night on the phone and he would write her love letters. About 2 weeks after he had been married, he started calling me and telling me that he had made a terrible mistake. I think he felt very comfortable talking to me, and I think he knew I could put myself in his shoes in terms of his experience on the show and how he felt manipulated and lost.
In June 2009, Ryan came back to LA and called me and asked me if I wanted to go out to dinner with him, and I agreed. Ryan looked like he had lost several pounds. His face was very thin. He was very pale. He was shaky. He was paranoid. He was just not himself anymore. Ryan told me that Jasmine was ruining his life, but he's also obsessed with her not leaving him because he wants to win. He just can't accept any rejection.
Now, it's not like Megan and Ryan dated long, but they did have a connection and there were feelings there. So when she learned that he was a murderer, it took a toll on her. She said, it took me a long time to process everything that had happened. I'm still trying to make sense of it. When he was on the run, she said, I was terrified he was going to come looking for me. I'd never left my apartment. By the time authorities finally tracked down Ryan, he had hung himself in a motel room. VH1 pulled the plug on her show and Megan was shocked, left wondering how she could have become so close to a killer. She says, I try not to think much about this at all, but it's hard not to. This was such a close call. Jasmine and I could have been interchangeable. Here's a clip of Megan describing in her own words how it felt to learn this news.
3 weeks into Megan Wants a Millionaire airing, there was breaking news on the TV.
Police named a suspect in the brutal killing of model Jasmine Fiore. It's her ex-husband, Ryan Jenkins.
I was in the shower and my roommate ran into the shower and said, Ryan's on TV. He killed her. And that there was an international manhunt for Ryan. I immediately thought it was an accident. I didn't think that he could have purposely killed her. VH1 canceled the show. That ended my reality TV career, that ended my modeling career. People just didn't want to be associated with the murderers.
Megan did make it out the other side. She's actually now happily married and has an 8-year-old son. I was always such a big fan of her work on Rock of Love and all the VH1 shows. I just grew up. Those girls raised me. So I love her. I love Daisy, all of them back in the day. Heather, Lacey. Lacey was so problematic. Remember, what's her name? Rodeo? She was so funny too. But love that show. Love that time. What a tragic experience. And I hope that this kind of set a precedent for the future, that we don't ever have any other killers on a television show. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in a new one soon. Bye guys.